Okay, thank you all for joining us on Spotlight on the Candidate today. And we're speaking with Austin May, a candidate for McHenry, Illinois County Board. Hello, Austin, and welcome to Spotlight on the Candidate. How are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you for having me. It's a great day.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. And well, you and I had talked before this meeting, and actually we've talked several times. And one of the you know Austin, as are all the candidates on Spotlight of the Candidate, is a candidate politician who has been certified under the Politician's Creed. So Austin has been through the process of learning the creed, the articles under it, coming to understand how they work and affect his constituents, and and how his role as a politician reflects, the articles of the creed. So one of the questions we had for you earlier on Austin was if you could pick any two or one or two of the articles, which ones mean the most to you?
So it's a great question because it is a hard question. You would hope something like this would be. And within the politician's creed, I'm going to have to go with Article 2 and
Okay.
Article 5. So
Uh,
first, public servants, and
mhm.
then protect the vulnerable. I think at the end of the day, there's a thousand definitions of a politician and ideally of a good politician, but above everything else, you need to be accountable and available to your constituents, to your community. And that's what Article 2 is all about.
That's a good point. That's a good point. And I like the fact you picked those two because they kind of form the ends of the gamut, public servant
Mhm.
and then all the way through to the
Yeah.
most vulnerable. And um, so protecting the vulnerable, who's the vulnerable in your community?
It depends. These days, economic vulnerability is probably the most easily recognizable issue that McHenry County is facing. But vulnerability truly does break down into a thousand different visions, perspectives. Um, if we do just focus on that first one of economic vulnerability, we are dealing with, you know, McHenry County is not special. We're not unique, but the affordability crisis is hitting people everywhere across the country and around the world, frankly, for that matter, inflation as it is. So trying as, first a candidate and then a year from now as an elected official to ensure that there is, just a very basic, solid safety net underneath our community, that's going to take a lot of heavy lifting because so many of the programs or benefits or tax incentives that have previously been available, not to mention, an economy formerly roaring along, and then it's hit by
Mhm.
COVID, and then it's hit by, multiple little dips and some other shenanigans we can get into later. It's hard for people just, get by week to week, month to month. I don't know the numbers for Illinois, but nationwide, about 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck right now.
Mhm.
And therefore, when it comes to vulnerability, you need to be able to keep your lights on, keep your refrigerator stocked, fresh water, fresh clothes. That is such a basic thing, but it impacts everything that comes thereafter. You can't have, a solid educational foundation for your children if they're going to school hungry. You don't have senior citizens, enjoying their retirement years if they can't afford retirement homes. It comes across in a million different versions, and each story is unique, but I'm going to say economic vulnerability.
Okay. Yeah. No, that makes a sense. And I can see how all those things tie together to form a net, so to speak. And you snip one of the intersections and it starts to unravel. So yeah.
Yeah.
The does McHenry have a homeless issue at all? It's a relatively rural county, correct?
It is relatively rural. So, for context, McHenry County is the northwest corner of the Chicago metropolitan area. And, on the east side, we are suburbs or exurbs on the west side, we are cornfields and soy.
Okay.
So we kind of do have it all, which,
Mhm.
gives me a lot of pride for the county. But as far as a homelessness or endangered near homelessness population, it is relatively limited, and we do have some public entities helping, but a good number of private entities providing homes, counseling, just food bank services, that sort of thing. So relatively, no, we do not have as substantial a homeless population as you'd get in a more urban or suburban area.
Yeah. And yeah, I went straight there because that's the furthest you can fall when that hole in the
Yeah.
net happens. And just what you said about, people are living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, what does that mean in real terms? It means that when they stop getting that paycheck, it really falls apart for them.
Yeah.
And that's a stressful way to live for these people. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So just gosh, maybe 3 months ago, we had a major automobile manufacturer plant
Hmm.
in my community that their parent company went out of business. There was fraud at the higher level, and so the entire corporation is just kaput. And with that, uh, if I'm remembering my numbers correctly, a little over 200 employees were immediately fired from this company where they'd been working for years. It was a great, stable paycheck, just quality, solid. And then all of a sudden, nothing. That's paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
When, okay, we're okay, we can handle this. Junior needs new shoes and we have to pay for this medical expense. And then something happens and you do not have the savings in place to, keep the boat afloat
Hmm.
until you find the next opportunity. That's where things become really dangerous. And, then the bank starts calling and says you're behind on your mortgage payments. And then your car gets repossessed. Then you can't search for a new job. And then there you go.
Yeah.
You're homeless.
It goes down from there. Yeah. And with that, let me ask you a question. What about the pension fund? Was that automobile company maintaining a pension fund for its employees? And what happened when they shut down with that?
Mhm. I'm not sure. Now,
I
it's
mention
a
that.
federal investigation at this
Yeah.
point,
Okay. I
but
mention that because pension funds are invested predominantly in three major large companies that manage a total of about 14 to 17 trillion dollars.
Whew.
And those companies have those funds broken into um, a relatively small part where the pension fund, the company that has the pension fund, has
Mhm.
say over how that money is used.
Okay.
And then the majority of it not. And I want to say that because sometimes that can put the pension fund at risk. And but let me jump into something else. Public service. I
Yeah.
want to go back to that because you mentioned communication. Uh, when you get into office, how are you going to communicate? How are you going to open up and pull back the curtains and make sure that people know what's the job you're doing and how they can get put input in and things like this.
Yeah. I think pull back the curtain is the perfect metaphor. So,
Okay.
politicians are unpopular for a lot of reasons, some good, some bad, some fair, some not. But so much of it is, incomprehensibility of the decision-making process, of the public policy process. And it's very easy to go into our room, lock the doors, take a vote, and make a decision and leave the community that it's impacting out in the dark. And then 1 year later, oh, it's coming into effect. Now you just have to deal with it. At the end of the day, you have to meet people where they are. And for a county level candidate, county level politician, we have, you know, open meetings, monthly board meetings where, the public is invited to attend and speak and all that. But most people, of course, do not attend those. Just as a candidate, when I attend, I'll see, sometimes a dozen, sometimes 3 dozen people there. And, usually they'll be focused on one issue.
Mhm.
But making sure that everyone knows about my schedule. This is where I'm going to be this next week, this next month, but also, keeping a robust and active social media page, email, phone number, all of that, just having, hey, here are these ways to access my office, my, time, and hopefully some will grab that when they need it. At the same time, you have to go out to the people. So right now, everyone's in campaign season, so people
Yeah.
are getting knocks on their doors, they're getting phone calls and texts of, hey,
Mhm.
hey, here's my name and here's my story. I want your time, I want your money, I want your vote. That should not be a campaign only activity. That needs to be a permanent thing. So
Yes.
if I'm elected, that's a 4-year term.
Mhm.
I should be still canvassing the rest of those 4 years. Not as, extensively as I am right now because, I'm having the first conversations with people. But
Right.
if you are still, 2 years from now, going to someone's door and saying, hi, I'm your county board representative. Here are the current issues. Here's my perspective on them. Anything I can help you with.
And
Go to your constituents.
absolutely, absolutely. And that's a very good plan because once you get in office, you're going to be hustling, doing the work of the office and so forth. And then all of a sudden it's campaign time again. But now you're the incumbent. So when you're getting into office, you're fighting to achieve, to move your position into play.
Mhm.
When you're running as the incumbent for reelection, you're fighting to avoid losing your position.
Right.
And it creates an interesting change in dynamic. Whereas a politician who has not been engaging with their constituency the whole time, that change in dynamic is much more extreme. You know, they're on the defensive a little bit. But a politician like yourself who has been engaging with them the whole time, who has found ways to communicate without, without intruding, to let them know what's been happening and get their feedback and stuff like that. Come campaign time, it's a different ballgame in a better way, and so forth. Um, so good, very good. Uh, what exactly does the county board do?
It's a great
You
question.
said
Yeah.
board meetings, and I want to ask you also, board meetings, are they recorded? Are
Mhm.
they, because a lot of attending those meetings, as you said, 13, maybe, 12 people, whatever, a lot of it is almost impulse. I hear about it, it's 3 weeks from now, I'm not going to bother putting my schedule, or I hear about it, it's tonight, maybe I'll go. A lot of those might be impulse, or as you say, a lot of them might be because they're very focused on one policy.
Yes.
And remember, we talked before about how politics divides people into
Mhm.
smaller groups. And, you know, so how do you get them all together in bigger groups and so forth? So anyway, I'll leave that alone. I wanted to ask about recording them. You
Yeah, yeah.
they are. Uh,
So, yes,
okay,
thankfully, we have, come into the digital age and all county board minutes are on YouTube
good.
and both hosted on, just the county board site and also, like youtube.com/McHenry County Government.
Excellent.
Um, Now, do many people watch those videos? No. Do
Mm,
most have views less than 100? Yes. But still, it is there for, the permanent record as best as we can. But each county is organized a little differently. But for McHenry County, the way our government is organized is we have a board of 18 board members, 18 members, and they are two per district. So
okay.
9 districts, two per 18 board members. And we act as the, county level legislative body passing budgets and regulations that cover all county services and also all county land. Now we have, many municipalities across the county, but when it's not municipal land, it's still McHenry County's land and our responsibility. So we have, roads and bridges and neighborhoods and all sorts of things that we have to cover. Sheriff's departments, water, lots of just, the essentials of what makes, civilization happen. But more than that, I would say, are the most public facing part of the county government. And therefore, if a constituent has an issue, before they're going to talk to the sheriff or this superintendent or that executive director of some commission, they're going to talk to their county board member. So legislative issues and
Mhm.
constituent services.
Operations and policy. Okay.
Mhm.
Very good. Very good. Yeah. Awesome. Now I know you have several topics that are near and dear to your heart and that are also driving you to run for office, so forth. One of them, we kind of touched on earlier, is affordability and the impact of affordability with the economy and so forth. Uh,
Yeah,
you want to weigh into that?
I do. I do.
Awesome.
So in Illinois, over the
Mhm.
last 30 years, the median income has gone up 20%.
Okay.
Awesome. Great.
Sounds
Good.
good.
Hooray.
Mhm.
Over the last 30 years, the median single family home has gone up 100%.
Okay.
That increasing disparity is putting, that key cornerstone of the American dream of home ownership of your own little parcel out of reach for more and more people. And it's especially impacting, if I dare say so, young people like myself,
Mhm.
millennials and Gen Z. So what we can do on the housing front is, you know, reconsider, redefine, re-regulate what kind of housing is available and what is necessary to be, classified and zoned as residential areas. It'd be great if we all had McMansions. There's
Mhm.
not that much land. It'd be great if we all had, 10 acres and a homestead. There's not that much space. The only way I see out of this is much more dense housing, apartments, condos, townhouses. Um, but this is, a multifaceted policy discussion, part of which would happen at the federal level, part down in Springfield at the state level of, redefining things like micro houses and zoning for high use residential areas. In McHenry County, we are a incredibly residential county.
Mhm.
Um, you know, to people within the Chicago area, we're known as a commuter community. You have a lot of folks who, whether by car or train, live out here in the far suburbs and then commute every day down to Chicago or, the inner suburbs for work and back.
Mhm.
And that said, our tax base is 88% residential. So to put that in layman's terms, of all the property tax that comes into the county and into the municipalities, it is 88% paid by, just families in their home.
Yeah.
10% of that comes from commercial and industrial sources. If you look at, take an economics course and see the gold standard, or even just look at, other counties with a better ratio, it should be about 30% commercial and industrial. So what we can do at the county level is bring in more industry, more commerce to change that ratio of being so lopsided towards just everything comes from the residential taxpayer, which means higher property taxes, which means affordability issues, or balance it out with, just more commerce. And again, if you've got it here, you're not commuting an hour each day there and back again to work. There
Okay.
are things we can do at the county level. It will take all players playing together, but the county absolutely can do some things to fix this.
Okay. And does the county have any policies on ADUs, affordable dwelling units, things like this that can reduce, um, the burden for the homeowner?
They're being discussed,
Okay.
from what I've heard, no.
Okay.
There are a few of the towns that have approached or even implemented the ADU, but not at the county level, as far as I know.
Okay. ADUs might attract more commuters to move out of the city,
Hmm.
bringing more of a tax base with them
Oh yeah.
and things like that. So that's
Yeah.
a possibility.
So what is
Okay.
interesting is, and this is happening in cities across the country. Chicago proper is shrinking as far as the
Mhm.
population goes. Over the last year, 2025, Chicago lost about 9,000 people. McHenry County grew in 2025 by 2,500.
Okay.
Small, but
We know where
McHenry
some of those people
County
went.
is
Yeah.
growing as, let's say like the city expands outwards.
Yeah.
The
Okay.
suburbs get built up, the inner urban area sort of falls away.
Okay. Now the county, it's a red county, correct?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
you've got kind of like three groups there. You've got the Democrats who are outnumbered by the Republicans who are
Yes, we
broken
are.
into. You've got the Reaganite Republicans and the Maganite Republicans. So does this create a very partisan situation, or is there opportunity to work across the aisle? And yeah.
I like how you broke that down. It's very accurate. Now, when we look at national races, there are two players. There are the Democrats and there are the Republicans. And today, the Republicans are President Trump's party. That is it. At the local level, across the country, you have, much more quiet, peaceful, patient conversations and, people who've been in office for more than a decade. So before the MAGA revolution within the Republican Party. As it currently stands, of our 18 board members, we have three Democrats, 15 Republicans. But within that 15, you have, let's say, 10 that are Reaganites,
Hmm.
depending on the issue, and five that are MAGAites. As well, our county board chair, he, I would say, is also a Reaganite. And
Okay.
so what often ends up happening, and as we recently saw with the property tax increase that we had in November, is it is a compromise between Reaganites and the Democrats, some of the Reaganites, versus, the ones over here saying, no new taxes, no new taxes. We should, disband this program and that service. And if you want to have just a nice, functioning, modern community where your public servants, your police officers, your ambulance drivers are paid what they deserve, prices are going to increase. And so we have to meet that challenge. And as we saw with that vote and with others, it often does come down to the old school conservatives splitting among themselves, and then the Democrats joining some of them and often passing something, usually by, one vote, but it gets the job done. It is inefficient. It is frustrating for those on the outside. It is maddening, but we can do better, and we will.
Okay. And we can do better. So, and yeah, that reflects the name of your website, A Better Way,
Yes, yes, it is.
MC.com.
I
Yeah.
swear that was unintentional, but yes, great plug. Yeah.
Yeah.
A better way MC.com.
MC.com. Yeah. So
Because
very
it's
good.
like, when I was starting this journey, I feel like this is just a natural segue. The standard is to, all right, now you create a campaign and you name it after yourself. but it's not about me.
Hmm.
It's about us. It's not about Austin May, it's about District 5. And so if I can help District 5 and McHenry County move forward in a better way, then I've done the right thing.
Yeah, very good. You know, it's um I like that you said it's not about me and so forth. It's really interesting. A lot of people don't realize this, but yeah, we work with so many, we by that I mean the oath of office, we work with so many politicians and candidates across the country. And um candidates especially candidates like, who are striking out for their first time in this rodeo. They have so much to learn. And one of the things they come smack up against is raising the funds to run their campaign.
Mm.
I mean, how do you campaign? How do you get people to vote for you? You've got to get in front of them. You've got to make your name known out there. And how do you do that? Advertising, social media, flyers, all these things and so forth. And this costs money.
Mm.
Raising that money, you know, um, turns out to be one of the most difficult things a, candidate does. And here's an interesting thing. On call time, the process of
Mhm.
calling up
Right.
everybody you know and asking them who else do they know, and the concentric rings out there eats up a lot of your time. And but the people who are good at it naturally are the ones who are kind of narcissistic. It's ironic. The candidates I've seen it happen over and over again. The candidates who I personally would think, man, it'd be awesome if you get into office, they struggle with it a little more because their heart is with the people they're calling. And until that candidate learns, and we try to teach them to recognize, hey, what you're doing this for them. So don't have any issue with asking them to support your effort to do this for them. But the people we don't have to tell that to are the ones who are narcissistic. And the ones and this has an interesting winnowing effect in Austin. A lot of candidates who get into office successfully did so because they were much better at raising those funds. And so you end up with a population of politicians who are a little more narcissistic. It's more about me than the average population. So, anyway, refreshing to hear you say that. Yeah, and with regards to your own fundraising, I wish you the best of luck. Take those points into consideration and so forth. Um,
Thank you.
uh, I want to move on to another thing because this kind of
So
touches. Well,
I
go ahead
just
if you
I
want to.
want to put in a quick note on that because it's a fascinating thing. And I had to double check for the numbers. So
Hmm.
in the same way that there is a self-selection bias for politicians, there is a similar one for high-level C-suite executives.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there have been studies that show there's this thing called corporate psychopathy,
Okay.
where there is a much higher than expected amount among, your C-suite executives who show, not necessarily are diagnosed, but show uh, some measure of sociopathy
Hmm.
to make those cold calculated decisions that will increase your stock price by 0.5%. That can sometimes mean laying off a bunch of people or undercutting your competition, whatever. But it self-selects. In the same way, instead of narcissism, I would say a politician has to drink their own Kool-Aid.
Yeah,
I have served on several campaigns before, I got into this now for myself. And if you are not your own biggest cheerleader, it doesn't matter who else is on your side
that's right.
because people can sense that. And if you have this hope and belief and optimism, it's infectious. So
Hmm.
much of what enraptured people to Obama in 2008 was hope.
Yep.
And, that fresh breath that he represented. So, yes, I absolutely have drank my own Kool-Aid, in
Very
short.
good. Very good. And um, you definitely sound like you're also a man of the community as well. And talk about that. Talk about getting out there. You've talked about how you get out there. Your part of your campaign is outreach and civic awareness and things like this.
Yeah.
Tell me a little more about that.
So I, boiling it down, I have two passions in life,
Okay.
education and politics. And in a previous life, I was a high school English teacher and also taught civics. And, you know,
Hmm.
if, I had a genie and I could ask for a couple wishes, one of them would absolutely be just a better civic awareness here, where, as it currently stands, this being another midterm election, we'll see what happens in November, but in 2022, the last one in Illinois, 48% of registered voters voted. In McHenry
Hmm.
County, it was slightly higher, it was 51%. Woo!
Okay.
If we could get everyone voting, and with that, everyone mindful of the issues that are impacting them and their families and their neighbors, that would be such a healthier society to be keyed in that civic way. Um, yeah,
Let me ask you a
just
question. Let me ask you a question. We talked about um, the board meetings being recorded.
mm,
Oh, would there be any way to convince the school districts in the county to, when there's a board meeting, maybe the next day in class, the homeroom watches it,
ooh.
you know?
The kids would
And
be bored out of their minds, but it'd be healthy. Yeah.
yeah, well,
Um,
watch this, and let's discuss it. And little Tommy, um, or any of you who I'm going to be interested in seeing who's got the most to say about it,
right.
like that.
So I have had the wonderful opportunity a few
Mhm.
times now to go into high schools in the area and just be a sort of a guest lecturer for the day, uh, partly discussing my career and how do you go from high school to college to all sorts of stuff, but also the current state of American politics, both at the very, very small level, county level, and at the grander level. There is a hunger
Mhm.
and an anxiety among young people today about the state of our politics. You have a lot of people that are very passionate and want to get involved or are getting involved, but somewhere between, just the nature of time and youth and also the fractured nature of our current politics, kids these days do not trust and do not know and do not, see the links in the chain of how a protest turns into policy, how this campaign will impact them a year from now. That can only be fixed by, something like that, where yes, we're going to talk about what our county board did last night and the vote they took on this issue. What does it mean for you and your parents and your siblings? There's
Yeah.
only 24 hours in a day,
Uh-huh.
but
Okay.
I think that broadly speaking, we need to be putting more into civics in general and especially critical thinking skills, or, in pedagogy, we would call it deeper learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Lest we all become an idiocracy. But yeah,
We can't have AI doing everything for us.
yeah, that's true. Very true. And that lays up a very good conversation for our next call. But yeah. Um, anyway, I tell you what, I really appreciate the time today. And Austin, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to say and to your community?
To my community, to all communities everywhere,
Yeah.
it is easy to succumb to fear, to bitterness,
Hmm.
but progress in whatever shape you want to define that starts with talking to your neighbor. Whatever the issue might be, getting together with other people, figuring out how can we solve this, or if we can't solve it, who do we talk to? If they can't do it, how do we form a movement? The power of petition and assembly. The founding fathers knew about it. They wrote it into the Constitution, and it can change the world. Don't succumb to fear and bitterness. Reach out.
Very good. Very good. Totally agree. And so, uh, so as we wrap up here today, if you'd like to support Austin, visit the website we mentioned, okay? www.abetterwaymc.com. And Austin, I want to thank you again for your time here today.
Thank you very much. It was an honor, Jim.
Likewise. And to all of you watching this video, please click the like and subscribe button at the bottom so we can bring you more oath certified candidates like Austin May. Thank you very much.